Is it Zapier or Zapier?
Tomato.
Zape or Zap? Because you say, "Oh, we'll just zap it over."
Right.
But you don't say you're going to zape it over.
No, but I don't know what their official. A lot of people call it Zapier. There's a few times I hear Zapier, but
it's like McDonald's and the Big Mac.
You know what we need to do? We'll bring a linguist on and we'll have them to discuss. Well, the I makes it an A sound instead of an A sound because
Did you change my name?
No, when you came back in.
That's so rude.
I didn't touch it.
Hold on. All right, I'm gonna do the intro.
Chad Lukens from an alternate reality.
That's funny. All right, now we got it. Okay, welcome to the Art of AI podcast. I am Mike, the AI guy, Polite. I'm joined, of course, by Mr. Chad, fancy camera, Lukens. Look at that guy. He's got 4K camera now. Look, you can see every beard hair.
Yep.
In great detail.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
So today I'm gonna make a frittata. We're gonna kind of scramble.
All right. I can't take that seriously.
No, today we're talking about the Zapier, MAKE, automation tools, and kind of the differences and what makes why you would choose one over another.
Right. So we're looking at Zapier and MAKE changed their name recently, right? It was like Integrito or something like that before.
Integramat. So it used to be Integramat, now it's MAKE.
Okay.
Basically, they rebuilt the user interface and rebranded. I didn't use Integramat itself. I mean, I was aware of it, never really got much into it to the point where I can't even remember what it was like before it was MAKE.
Got it.
But yeah, it's MAKE now.
Okay, got it. And so when we talk about these softwares, Zapier, we'll go with Zapier. Zapier and MAKE, they are integration softwares. And so the whole purpose behind them is that they connect software that otherwise wouldn't be able to talk to each other. So if you've got something in, say, WooSender that you needed access to in GoHighLevel, you would transfer that data from WooSender to GoHighLevel using some sort of integration software that attaches to their APIs or some other sort of integration, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what Zapier is made for. I would say that one of the differences between MAKE and Zapier is that MAKE isn't necessarily quite so much software to software integration. I mean, it has that as part of a component, but as we'll get into later, what you can do with data and how it'll connect to databases, that kind of stuff. And which, you could do it with Zapier, but the flexibility of MAKE is it's not its main purpose. That wasn't, as far as I can tell, it was more about data comes in, what do we do with it, and then where do we put it.
Okay.
With your Zapier business model, it's more all the apps want to connect to other apps and just send data across, but manipulation and filtering, although it's getting better, and management wasn't necessarily, it was usually a one-to-one almost. They've improved that. They've gone towards more being able to mess with data in Zapier, but that wasn't really its initial purpose.
So I thought that these were two products that were very overlapped with each other. It was like you could pick one or the other, and there's a certain feature set with one that may not be in the other where they're not overlapped. But you're saying there is some overlap, but they're kind of built for different purposes. And one is more workflow oriented and the other is more data flow oriented. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that Zapier is just simpler. It's just grab this stuff. Well, let's pull it up and you kind of see what I'm,
Yeah, let's start with Zapier and just kind of walk us through what we're doing here.
All right, let me see here. I'm trying to. All right. All right. So can you see my screen now? So here's an example. Zapier, I'm creating a WooSender contact. And actually, this is an example of me using Make and Zapier, right? So it's not like one's better than the other. There's definitely certain times where you want to use Zapier. The thing that Zapier has going for it is that there are a ton of products that are actually able to be leveraged within there, right? And there's a lot in Make too, but Zapier definitely wins when it comes to how many disparate products are available in Zapier. It's kind of the first thought. They're kind of the big kid in the playground, right?
Right.
And so as you can see, I've just barely done anything here, but we can add pretty much this way. I only have one piece of information coming across at this point, but if I was sending data that had first name, last name, I can just kind of map it, right? And it does allow you to, do a little bit of a custom map as well. Here and basically here, the issue is you are presented with, the choices that are in the system, which is kind of convenient. Like here's our campaign and here are all the campaigns that are in WooSender right now. Right. That, it makes it really easy instead of me, as you can see. And one thing I use Make to sometimes, or Zapier too, is sometimes even in Make, I want to just send a specific campaign or a specific piece of information. And often I get this right from Zapier. So I'll go into Zapier to get this information and send it, because this is a unique identifier for this campaign. Right. And so if I pipe that in there, so we can kind of, do that, and you just kind of fill it out, right? It's just like filling out a form online, which is really handy. And they have gotten better as far as being able to manipulate data itself. I mean, we have now path, delay, filter, where it only processes if it goes through this way. You can reformat data, so I can format dates in different ways. If it comes in universal time code, I can switch it to the European format of month, day, year, that kind of thing. There is some logic built in. You can say, okay, here's a path A, right? So let's say after we do this, I want to take if this certain condition exists, right? So if this email contains whatever, let's see, and here are your different conditions: exists, is true, is false, date, time, all that. And then you can do something with that, right? And this is recent.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What's a simple use case for Zapier? Let's say someone's got a WordPress website with a form and the form has Zapier compatibility, and they're collecting information that they want to then use in WooSender. How would somebody go about doing that using Zapier?
Yeah, basically the form itself would, let's say that would be the trigger. Let's say it's Jot form, because that's one that I've used in the past. Gravity forms for WordPress is a common one.
Yeah, we've used that one in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're doing WordPress, for sure. And basically that information would be the trigger, and then you would put it in, you would create the contact as your event, right? And so you basically choose the event, right? So you say, okay, what am I doing here, right? I have three options, right? Add, move opportunity to pipeline stage, create appointment, create contact. That's what you can do in WooSender, right? And then I can manipulate it a little bit. There are probably some hardcore power users that are better at really manipulating data in Zapier. But for the most part, what I find as far as it being with it being built the way it is, it's pretty much a one-to-one, taking data here and moving it over there. You can do some basic manipulation, but one of the downsides is, I think, to Zapier is that it gets complicated because you're having to build, for example, I can create a subzap, right? A subzap is basically meant to run within another zap, right? So you can create a subzap and it's a subroutine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And effectively it'll run and do X function and return the value of that function, right? And so you have all these disparate zaps building up, and it's very easy to get, zap creep, for lack of a better term, right? Where you
You're
have
over
hundreds,
automating everything. Is that what's happening
you've
there?
got, well, not just over automating, but look at how hard it is to, manage it, right? You've got all these different folders, you're trying to manage it, right? And that can be kind of overwhelming, right? And it becomes difficult to, okay, this plugs into that subzap, right? And then I'm using that subzap. I mean, for example, if you want to do a zap that updates a record in an account, you would have to, you'd call that subzap like you would call a subroutine, but then you've got, in our case, multiple clients, and we create our own subzap, and how do I organize these, right? Now let me see if I can create a folder. Until recently, as far as I know, let me see if there's a new folder. Let's see, test sub. I was just playing with it today and see if it creates a sub folder. So they've recently added subfolders. This is like brand new. I shouldn't say brand new, but before you weren't able to create subfolders. So I couldn't say, here are all the zaps that deal with PandaDoc, and here breaking it down by client, right? So that I could then go, oh, okay, I'm going to go into client A's folder and pull that out, right? Or here are all the client subzaps. Here's client A's or zaps. Here's client A's zaps, all the zaps that are related to client A, right? So that's actually relatively new. I noticed this morning, and that will make organization much easier. But the thing is that when you move to the make, right? And here's one I'm working on as well, where basically we're tying in WooSender directly to GoHighLevel. I can route information, right? And so it's a little bit more, as far as I'm concerned, intuitive, right? So the data comes in, then it goes, okay, here are the pipeline tags, right? We're using pipeline tags to decide what we do with it in GoHighLevel to move it along the pipeline. So when you move it from WooSender pipeline from one stage to another in the pipeline, it's going to mirror that in I'll go GoHighLevel. But here's the thing: we have pipeline tags, and this is actually, so basically this is my tag handler make. And when that tag gets added, it's going to go, okay, is it a pipeline tag? Then you go through this process. Is it this is a time zone. This is how we're going to deal with some time zone stuff. Is it a time zone tag? Then we're going to deal with it this way, right? So now I have one zap, and its focus is only, or not zap, but one scenario. They're called scenarios.
So hold on. Is Zapier basically the Q-tips of integration software now? Because you're calling it a zap inside of Make?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's kind of, it's like a Kleenex. Yeah, it's getting there. Well, it's more of Zapier has been pretty much the only game that didn't require intensive coding in town, right? Like, so you for the longest time, it was Zapier, and you map it, and people understand mapping. You don't have to be an engineer to understand it, and you could build some basic automations for yourself. Right. Make it takes a lot longer to adopt Make. I'll tell you that much. So the ease of use for Zapier is a little easier than the learning curve is a bit quicker. I shouldn't say a lot, but a bit quicker. However, the ability to manipulate in Make. And, you know, for example, I create, I can just, you know, copy these 3 and copy and paste. Now I've got that exact same setup, right? And you know, I can attach it however I need to as a different option, right?
Mm-hmm.
The value of that is that I find it a lot quicker to make stuff happen in Make than I do in Zapier, because I'm constantly rebuilding. Now I have the ability to duplicate now, like in the path or steps, and that's relatively recent. But at the same time, I mean, basically, I'm going to go in here, right? Here's our pipeline tag. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, okay, search for an email, right? And so it's a lot simpler for us to keep track, right? So the user experience here is a little easier if you're going to do some serious, like, managing of where the data goes, right? And, you know, because here's the thing, look at how many levels I'm going down, right? So I've got here, it's going to come in, oh, this is a pipeline tag, it's going to search for the contact and go high level. Then based on whether it exists or does not exist, in other words, does it come up with an email? Does the email that came in from the webhook match the email that was pulled up from this record? If it does, great. Then we're going to say that it exists and we're going to put in a new opportunity. If it doesn't, then it's going to create the contact, right? And then create the opportunity. But like here, I'm going to have to then go, does it have already an opportunity ID in WooSender? That's a GoHighLevel opportunity ID, right? So I'm going to be doing that logic right down here. Now to do that, it literally, if you were going to do that in GoHighLevel or Zapier, and let me just create a new Zap here because I lost the other one. I would have to do a path within a path, right? So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go edit this. I'm going to add an action. I'm going to add another path and make those decisions here. So the problem with that for me is, from as you get that level of complexity, is where the heck is everything happening? Does that make sense? Trying to figure this out later, it's doable, totally doable here. But with the Make interface, it's like, okay, well, I want to change what happens at the end of this flow. All this is fine, but now this one thing is going to change. Here, I have to go, okay, I have to basically draw this out so that I can know where along the line things happen, right? I mean, there's obviously using naming conventions, things like that. That's not a problem. And you can use naming conventions for each path and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, if I'm doing documentation for Make, I literally just point arrows. This does this does that, that does that. And I don't need to write a whole bunch, or I don't have to draw this out. It's drawn out, right? That doesn't happen with Zapier. So that's another limitation, you know. And then of course there's price, right? So Integromat is phenomenally cheaper. And I can't say I don't know for sure if filtering, I was searching around to see if filtering actually and the Make related or the Zapier related modules, right? See, these are Zapier modules. They're actually built by Zapier and managed by them. And I don't know if those are chargeable in the same way that a Zap is, if it's like another product, you know, if it's GoHighLevel or WooSender. But the trigger and this path, there's a bunch of options. If I were to add, you know, if I just type in Zapier, right, filter by Zapier, I'm not sure. I don't think filtering does, but you know, it might. But these may or may not be chargeable. I'm guessing most of them are. Filtering may not be. Okay. Here's your pricing, right? So the pricing in general is more expensive in Zapier, fairly significantly. Like here for $73, you're going to get 2,000 tasks, and a task is every time this hits, right? So
a task is every time something happens in the
exactly.
system.
So you have your trigger.
Every single thing that happens is is a thing
Correct.
that basically you have a bank of things that you can do. And then when that's out, you have to either buy more or you're just out for the rest of that month.
Right. And then and team, let's see. So and then if you're gonna go like the basic $9 a month plan is 10,000 operations and 1 gigabyte of data transfer.
Okay, so Make
So
is significantly less expensive.
it's significantly less expensive. The module itself, like if you're doing filtering and stuff, that it's this that charges you, not the filter, right? It's not a step. It's just okay. It's doing a mapping of that data. When this happens, you know, this high level one or the route, and the router may not even. I don't even think the router is chargeable. It's just this. And I could be
Okay, so
wrong.
hold on.
So
Let's bring this home. Okay,
yeah,
so let's talk to the solar company, the life insurance guys, the home services providers, the roofers, right? They've got a website, right, with a contact us form, right?
correct.
People are gonna go to their website, see it. They're gonna go, yes, this is the service that I need. I would like you to contact me. They're gonna fill out that form. If you had
Yep.
to make a suggestion for that particular client, right? We're not talking about somebody who's huge. Let's say they're doing, they've got maybe 90 to 100 leads coming in a month. So they're hustling, right? But it's not a ton of them, not thousands, right? Which integration software should they be using to get that data from their form into their GHL account or their WooSender seat?
Zapier. And the
Zapier.
reason is
Why Zapier?
it's just simple. It's just very for that kind of just taking data from one place, connecting it and putting it in another. That's it. That was its original purpose is cloud to cloud connection, right?
Okay.
Make is designed to make decisions and to based on the data that exists, do something, right?
Okay.
Zapier's original purpose was to connect the data from one client to another or one cloud product to another, right?
Okay.
So, and it's very simple. Most people understand mapping, right? I take
Right.
this data here and I put it here. And that's what Zapier does, right? Sometimes with Make, I've got to, this is a webhook. Sometimes I have to parse the data. Sometimes I have to play with it, whatever. More frequently, so it takes a slightly higher skill set when it comes to engineering or understanding code and workflows and routing and all the logic that goes into building these things. So I would say that Zapier, for anyone who's not in marketing, not really doing or they're not IT people. I mean, if you're running an IT company, Make I would recommend, right? Because once you get over that initial learning curve, you're what you can do with it. But even then, I still don't. Even I use Zapier because, like, to do stuff in WooSender, to put stuff back into WooSender, its only option is Zapier, right? So it's not it. It really is how comfortable you are with it, the skill sets you have, and what you're trying to do with the information.
Same thing like if you're running Facebook ads, right? Like you're running Facebook ads and you're using Facebook form even, so you're not even sending them to a landing page or anything. They're just collecting data straight from Facebook. That would be connected to your GoHighLevel account or your WooSender seat via Zapier, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. The GoHighLevel we can get directly from Make, but WooSender is, you can see over here, this is my Zapier function, right? Because we're working with it. So Zapier, this would go back into Zapier directly.
Got it.
And then Zapier does the WooSender, puts it in the campaign and updates the contact record as I need to update it, right? So long story short, effectively, I would be using Zapier unless you're comfortable with this learning curve. Like, there's really not a lot of learning curve for this. Choose this product, take the data that you get from Gravity Forms and put it over WooSender here. It's fairly straightforward. doesn't take a lot of skills. It's just more expensive per transaction, per task, right? But if you're going to start getting really in depth, it's worth the learning curve to start looking at Make, because it's just the way they've built it makes it really simple to go, here's the path to go if this condition is true, which they have here. Of course, it's doable, but a path within a path within a path is a lot more difficult to manage than this, where it's like, this is basically a path within a path within a path, right?
So when your Zapier starts getting all these nested folders and sub zaps, right? That's what you call them, sub zaps. When you have all of that going on, then it might be time to consider moving to Make, where you can actually have a visual, this thing that like a visualizer almost, right? Where you can see the path there and keep things a little bit more organized. But until you get there, I think the suggestion is that you go with the big dog in the fight. You go with Zapier and deal with the transaction fees. But when you start to get to the point where you're doing a ton of transactions, that's when you want to look at Make, to be able to handle those transactions at a lower cost and be able to visualize it a little better.
Right. And the other benefit that Make has is that I don't have to upgrade I can just buy more transactions. I don't have to. There's a couple things. One, it has a built-in data store, right? So I can create effectively a database of items, without going into some other data software. And I don't know. Let me see here if, I know that was coming. I haven't done it in a while. Let's see if there's a Zapier data. Yeah, I don't see Zapier. I don't see Zapier data store. So that is another benefit. I don't have to use Google. I don't have to use a spreadsheet and waste a task, waste a task in Zapier to go to a Google spreadsheet and pull data in. I can just store the data in Make directly and pull it and filter it, right? So it's not like, oh, okay, here I'm putting data in. Now I got to go pull that data out, and then I got to go put that data back together in a certain way necessarily. Right. I mean, you still have to do that here, but it's just all in one connection, right? So I can literally filter. I don't want to pull up that one, but I can literally filter and say, okay, pull up the data that matches X, and then do something with it, right?
Okay. So Chad, looks like we have a question here from Sam over on LinkedIn. Does Make have less integrations than Zapier? Seems like that would be a main difference as well. And I think you touched on this very early on here, is that Zapier does have significantly more integrations. They call them apps inside of Zapier, whereas Make has much fewer.
It does. However, I will say this: the more and more companies are using webhooks now, which is kind of a universe. It's kind of like the USB of app to app management, right? Like sending data back and forth. So I'm finding myself increasingly leveraging webhooks to get things done, in which case it doesn't matter. You can use either one, right? It has its limitations. Sometimes it's a little hard to parse. An example is we use ClickUp for some project management processes, and ClickUp's when it sends data to a webhook, even though you have it doesn't deal with the custom fields very well. So I had to kind of work around it so that the webhook did what it needed to do. So it could trigger webhook. ClickUp can trigger the webhook in Make, and then I just put parameters in the URL itself that I could then pull and cross. So there's sometimes little tricks, but definitely Make is it has a lot fewer direct integrations, and sometimes you got to kind of work around that. That's why even here, like I said, I'm using Zapier, and that's going to be updating WooSender, right? Like the only option is that. Like there's no incoming webhooks for WooSender.
Right. Okay, so let's recap here real quick. We've got you can unshare your screen there, Chad, or maybe I can unshare it. Boom, unshared. Look at that. So let's recap. Make versus Zapier. If you're getting started, you've got some pretty simple data transactions that are happening. Zapier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. When things get a little bit more complex and you'd like more to happen in your processes, what are you suggesting there?
Make. If you have the skill set to be able to kind of get through that learning curve, then make is definitely where you would want to go. It might even be worth it to hire a professional to do it at some point if you get the volume high enough. If you start seeing huge Zapier bills, then it's time definitely to start looking at Make to see if you can reduce those costs.
All right, fantastic. Well, I think that's it for this particular episode. Chad, thank you so much for walking us through with your experience through Zapier and Make. This episode was once again sponsored by Woo Garage, where you can get WooSender right now for just $9.97 a month. No strings attached. I keep getting questions about that. Like, what's the catch? The catch is you got to get your hands dirty, right? Like we're not building out massive things for you at that price. This is literally just you getting the license. If you do need help, we have access to help from there, but the $9.97 price is just you getting the access to the software to get in there and get your hands dirty with our template in there, of course.
Right.
Chad, anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you guys have any questions, feel free to scan that the QR codes that we've shown just to get on our calendar. Other than that, we'll see you next time.